Devastating desires. So I'm having one of those moments now. I'm trying to, right? I was so horny. I was just so horny. And I was just couldn't help but wonder about a girl that I went to her house one time and I didn't have sex with her. I didn't even try. And I'm like thinking, man, I should have. She was hot. I had the hots for her. And I said, what does it matter? I've already had great sex before and it leads nowhere, which means it leads to betrayal. Great sex won't keep you together with someone because we're all functional beings. So another animalistic being can come in and provide that same functionality that you do. So we're easily replaceable. So we're very fragile and vulnerable to replacement, right? And so we lose that connection, even if it's great sex, which is fleshly desire without intimacy. And so we can betray intimacy for fleshly desire or sexuality. And so it's like, why? That's why I was asking myself, why not go have sex? Like, God, what am I doing? What am I doing, God? That's why I was asking God, help, God, what am I doing? Like, what am I thinking reading the Bible? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, what is wrong with me, God? Like, I'm going crazy. Like, why would I read the Bible? What benefit is that? What I need to be doing is going acting on my fleshly sexual desires and finding that woman, that beautiful woman to mate with in fleshly ecstasy. Right? And so I started going crazy. I was like, God, help me. What's going on here, God? What's going on here? Why do we choose you, God? And that's the answer. Because of intimacy. Because if we don't choose God, we devastate our emotions, which can lead to lunacy and destruction of paradise, and which could lead to which would drive us into death. It drives us into lunacy, death, and destruction because our emotions are uncontrollable. Without intimacy, when we only act on our fleshly desires, we become a maniac. We become a monster. We become a soulless, vain vampire, a demon. We become evil because we don't. So the whole point of the Bible is the flesh versus the spirit, which means the flesh has desires. However, if we act on those desires, it's devastating to the spirit. It's devastating to our soul, to our emotions, There it goes, to our emotions, right? So basically, because we partook of the tree of knowledge of good and bad, we acted on the flesh, in which we became conscious of our emotions that can devastate us, caused by our desires. So Eve had a desire and partook of the fruit and acted on that desire to partake of the fruit. And it caused devastation to the paradise. And emotionally, it caused her devastation. She became ashamed. She became embarrassed. She became humiliated, mocked. And so then it's kind of like the evolution, but not denying God, just kind of saying that's an alternate possibility of an explanation of what it's trying to describe our evolution from ape to man, right? Or whether it's aliens that manufactured us into man, genetically engineered us into man, or God himself who created us into man. It's clear that we share animal desire, right? We have animal desire within us. In fact, scientists say that we're 99% a certain type of ape animal or gorilla animal or orangutan animal or chimpanzee animal. I mean, you check with the official books for the exact reference, but scientific evaluation. But it doesn't matter if they're wrong. First of all, I don't think that they're wrong because they're using genetics now, and I don't think that they're lying. However, and just in case that they were lying or are wrong, which I just don't believe that they are wrong or lying. However, it's possible, right? It's still possible. I don't think it's impossible. So it doesn't matter. What matters is that the battle inside of us between our fleshly desires, which have devastating consequences and destroys paradise and causes us to feel shame, humiliation, and mockery, which can drive us into madness, into lunacy, into destruction, into death, which drives us into death. That's right. It drives us into death. Those emotions, becoming conscious of our emotions drives us into death. So what's the key to victory in managing our emotions? Because we're conscious of our emotions, which are aggravated and devastated by our fleshly desires. Our emotions are devastated by our fleshly desires and the acting upon those fleshly desires. So basically, then we are now conscious of our emotions. So the Bible says that the only way to survive without going crazy and causing devastation and destroying paradise and feeling shame, mockery, humiliation, and having emotional damage from our fleshly desires, our ape desires. If you think about our animal desires, in which we're also part our soul, but it's possibly part alien, which I believe is a likely reality. Like basically, the aliens came here, they manufactured us into working tools. However, in order to function correctly, we have to engage in intimacy with this spirit called God. Now, however, that's I think through our telepathy. Honestly, I think it's probably through our telepathy. It's a way to activate our telepathy, and it's a way to control our telepathy. So they have these boundaries set up. They kind of give us a blueprint of telepathy to an authorized or approved method to use our telepathy in order to manage our emotions, to manage our conscious emotions, to process our conscious emotions through intimacy in what we would call God from the Bible. And whether that's a metaphor for aliens or a satellite or whatever mechanism they have in technology to communicate with us, that, or even if it's the human nature itself, we communicate to other humans in a special way, magnetic way, or through, of course, through telepathy. But so I think prayer in the Bible activates telepathy. And I think it's likely if the aliens have came here and taken over, then they would, and they have, enhanced or manufactured us through apes, maybe even started with the original animals that were already here and then kind of, manufactured us into what we are now, in which they kind of mixed their DNA with us a little bit, which gives us that supernatural, unbelievable, outside of the fleshly desire, out the spirit, the soul, outside of, which makes us human. Not quite alien, but not quite animal. We are animal, and we are alien, but we're not exactly 100% both. We're like unique. We're a hybrid. And that makes us very dangerous emotionally, or we're very fragile and vulnerable to the complexity of our emotions because we're conscious of our emotions and our thoughts. Our thoughts are the conscious interpretation of our emotions, in which we then become shame, like Eve in the Garden of Eden, when we act on our fleshly desires, and it devastates our emotions, causing emotional damage and destroying paradise when we betray our emotions, our intimacy with that higher power, as in the Garden of Eden is God, or the Elohim, which could be aliens or even the powerful ones, but whatever that mechanism is, that intimacy that we have, and we betray that, we then become damaged and we destroy our paradise, and we damage our emotions, right? We become ashamed, we become humiliated, we become mocked. So I'm having one of those moments now. I'm trying to, right? I was so horny. I was just so horny, and I was just couldn't help but wonder about a girl that I went to her house one time and I didn't have sex with her. I didn't even try. And I'm like thinking, man, I should have. She was hot. I had the hots for her. And I said, what does it matter? I've already had great sex before, and it leads nowhere, which means it leads to betrayal. Great sex won't keep you together with someone because we're all functional beings. So another animalistic being can come in and provide that same functionality that you do. So we're easily replaceable. So we're very fragile and vulnerable to replacement, right? And so we lose that connection, even if it's great sex, which is fleshly desire without intimacy. And so we can betray intimacy for fleshly desire or sexuality. And so it's like, why? That's why I was asking myself, why not go have sex? Like, God, what am I doing? What am I doing, God? That's why I was asking God, help, 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 God. What am I doing? Like, what am I thinking reading the Bible? Like, what is wrong with me? Like, what is wrong with me, God? Like, I'm going crazy. Like, why would I read the Bible? What benefit is that? What I need to be doing is going acting on my fleshly sexual desires and finding that woman, that beautiful woman to mate with in fleshly ecstasy, right? And so I started going crazy. I was like, God, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. What's going on here, God? What's going on here? What's going on here? Why do we choose you, God? And that's the answer. Because of intimacy. Because if we don't choose God, we devastate our emotions, which can lead to lunacy and destruction of paradise, and which could lead to which would drive us into death. It drives us into lunacy, death, and destruction because our emotions are uncontrollable without intimacy. When we only act on our fleshly desires, we become a maniac. We become a monster. We become a soulless, vain vampire, a demon. We become evil because we don't have intimacy. Now, whatever intimacy is, let's just stick to your belief. If you believe it's God, that's great. There's a way written in the Bible through the Garden of Eden. It says to communicate with God in order to manage your emotions, because you're now conscious. You're no longer fully an ape. You're no longer fully an animal because you're conscious. You have conscious thoughts about your emotions. In other words, you can identify your emotions, and then you can identify yourself, and then you can compare yourself to your emotions. And then you can describe your emotions, and then you can identify yourself and describe yourself in relation to your emotions. So when we have a bad emotions of shame, we then start identifying ourselves as shameful. That means we are destroying ourselves because we are now identifying ourselves as something bad or something negative. So we betrayed our emotions. We betrayed our intimacy and acted on the fleshy desire, which devastates our emotions and which then destroys our identity. Because we're conscious now, or that's what the Garden of Eden is conscious. We're not like an animal who does probably have emotions, but they're unconscious of their emotions. That means they can't say, I'm an animal, I'm a cat, and I feel this way. How does that make me? Who does that make me become? A shameful person. Oh my goodness, I'm a terrible person, right? We don't, a cat never says, I'm a terrible cat, right? It may even have, I believe animals do have emotions, but they're not conscious of their emotions. Apes do have emotions. They're not conscious of their emotions. I think we were created or manufactured. It doesn't matter. And we have, there's a mechanism described in the Bible to connect to that intimacy, that higher authority, that higher power, who then can, through intimacy, creates a paradise for us in which we're proud of ourselves, we're happy with ourselves, we're connected to nature, we're connected to ourselves, we're connected to other people, we're connected to animals, we're connected to plants, we're connected to the earth, and we're connected to our purpose, the work of our life, on how to work towards purpose or the will of God, purpose, desire of God. dream of God for us, right? And that's now, and so that's powerful right here. Is what I'm understanding now in a new way. The importance, why it's important to reach out and touch intimacy with our hearts, which is through prayer and through complexity of prayer through God, meditation, fasting, in a real relationship with God, prayer, which is talking to God as and hoping and believing and feeling His presence, even though you can't touch His presence as far as we know, or smell His presence, or see His presence, or hear His presence, or taste His presence. So we can't use our five senses in which we use to interpret this physical, material, corporal reality. And that's, see, and what happens is when we only act, that's the flesh, and we only act on the flesh, which is the desires of our eyes, the desires of our smell, our nose, our smell, our sight, our hearing, our ears, our touch, our skin, or our feelings. As you say, you feel something with your hand or your body or in your skin, and then taste, our tongue, as our mouth, as we taste something, right? That's how we connect to the world, through our fleshly senses, our five corporal, material, fleshly senses. And they didn't create desire for us because we're like, oh, these senses are nice to incite, to inflame, to passion, right? Like, I get excited sometimes when I eat. I get excited sometimes when I get some sugar or some good steak or some good vegetable, even some good vegetables. I mean, I get excited about, not every moment I'm excited about it, but in many different moments, I'm excited about different types of food. And I'm satisfied. I'm like, endorphin, like, I think it's dopamine or whatever it may be, chemical stimulation in our brain, or whatever signal that stimulates our brain. But not in every moment I'm not stimulated, but there's a certain moment that I'm like, oh, I'm sure glad I'm eating these vegetables. Oh, I'm sure glad I'm eating this carrot, this watermelon, this broccoli, this steak, this cake. But not even in every moment am I happy to eat cake. Not in every moment am I happy to eat steak. Not in every moment am I happy to eat, or am I, not in every moment am I happy to eat pizza or hamburgers or french fries or milkshakes or whatever. Name your favorite food. It's like, but in any one moment, there is a moment that I am happy and stimulated from eating and from the excitement to eat those things. And not all at once, and never at once. At some moment, there's a moment for everything. And so that's our fleshly desires, right? And then we become addicted because we try to recreate that moment, right? And maybe ice cream stimulates us more, or chocolate or ice cream, or chocolate or candy, or sugar or soda, or beer or drugs, and sex. So it comes down to sex for how I was feeling horny. And it's like that sexual desire. And I was like, why, God? Why decline it? I'm like, sorry, because that sexual desire was just magnifying in my brain. It was just like intense. It started to make my brain just throb with confusion. It was like, get sex, get sex, get sex. That's all I could think about. I was like, oh, please help me, God. Oh my God, Lord, why can't I have sex? Like, confused, like, just get sex, get sex, get sex. And it's like, in that moment, I have to reach out. And that's what the Bible says. Eve needed to reach out and grab God. Help me, God. I'm having desires for this fruit. I know you told me not to eat. I have to say no, but I can't. I'm not strong enough in my flesh. I need to reach out and grab the Spirit of God to pull me to victory over my flesh. And that is the whole point of the Bible. That's why I'm reading the Bible, to learn about that fight. And it's not an easy fight, but most importantly, to realize that I need intimacy with God in order to ask for His help in the hardest moments in which my fleshly desires are causing confusion and stimulation, in order for me to in an intensity in my brain, a throbbing intensity to say, satisfy this desire now. Go get this desire satisfied, right? And it's like, how am I going to break that fleshly desire that would devastate my emotions, because I'm fragile and vulnerable to my emotions, because now I'm conscious of my emotions, because now I'm this super intelligent, empathetic, spiritual being with a soul that now can not only just satisfy his fleshly corporal five senses desires like an animal, but needs to satisfy his emotional connection to nature, to paradise, to the animals and the plants and the foods and the people, and to the spiritual world, which is God. And then to ourselves, our connection to ourselves, to our children, to our family, to our wives, and to our purpose, right? In order to seek action towards our purpose from God, which is active work. And whatever he desires for us in his dream, in his will, he will let us know, but we need a relationship with him. And then the flesh, that's why a lot of people don't live in purpose when they're addicted in the flesh, because they can't reach out and grab God and ask for his help to pull them out of their fleshly desires into their conscious emotions, to help process their emotions and to understand their emotions. And in order to help you live in your purpose and reject your fleshly desires, so that you don't devastate your emotions, which can drive you into lunacy, which can drive you into addiction, which can drive you into being a maniac, a monster, right? Like Cain. Then we have the story of Cain, like Eve became a monster. And then and she destroyed paradise. It causes great devastation to her emotions. She became ashamed. She became a bad person. She didn't like the person she became, even if it was for a moment. Maybe she learned to like herself, but still it was like a devastating feeling of being conscious of your emotions. We now realize that there's something that we can do that causes us not to like ourselves. And that's our super intelligence compared to the animals, where the animals are not conscious of their unbridled passions and desires for the flesh, right? But we are, because we're super intelligent, we're empathetic, we're telepathic. And I think that that's how we communicate with God, through telepathy. It's a supernatural ability in which they want to limit our ability to empower ourselves with it, in order, maybe because we can't handle it. I mean, whatever the reason, right? And that's why magic, witchcraft, all those other types of things in the Bible are considered bad or a sin, because those kind of, I think, in a way, kind of activate some of your telepathic powers that do have real power in the spiritual and physical worlds. And you are able to access it through magic and through spells and through witchcraft and through, different, whatever else is out there that kind of claims to have power and authority in there, and that's outside of the Bible, religious, spiritual guidelines. And I think that's because that power unharnessed can cause really, it can be like somebody punching you in the face, right? You can have a magic curse on you, right? A demonic curse. And so that's even more so why you need God, because God is more powerful than those curses. So without the protection of God's intimacy, you are like, I'm scared. Like, I started stressing, I'm scared. Like, what is this world? Like, I've been traumatized. I've been hurt. I've been attacked. I've been abandoned. I've been abused. I've been beaten. I've been tortured. I've been kidnapped. I've been threatened. I've been intimidated. I've been lost. I've been stranded. I've been in the rage of death and murder. And it's scary, that unharnessed, unbridled power to kill and be conscious of it. Right? See, like an animal, animal might kill, but animal's not sitting there thinking about, I wonder what will happen if I kill someone. Will I feel bad? What about next year? Maybe I want to survive till next year. I want to plan this out. Right? They're not conscious of their animalistic or murderous rage, and even if it's in defense of their own existence. But we are. We analyze ourselves. We are conscious of our emotions in our rage, even in our rage and anger and jealousy and unbridled passions of desires for more stimulation of our fleshly corporal senses, material senses, our five senses: taste, smell, sight, hearing, and touch, our feeling with our physical body, our skin, our hands, touching, right? We can touch and feel. And so that's how we interpret the physical world. But we're not just apes anymore. We are now more than apes. We're these enlightened, spiritual, empathetic beings. And we need the Bible in order to process that power. And God has provided a way through the Bible to connect to Him through intimacy. And when we violate intimacy because we act on the desires of our flesh in a way that causes us shame, mockery, humiliation, rage, jealousy, murderous rage, our jealousy, like Cain. Cain had murderous jealousy, rage to kill his brother. He acted on his desires, his unbridled emotions, right? And he didn't ask for God's help. He didn't say, God, help me, please. And that's what the Bible says. God tried to help him. Cain, you need to ask for my help. You need to process your emotions in a healthy way, or you, in an intimate way, or you will do something devastating to something beautiful. Your brother is beautiful and he's great. He's a great person. Don't kill him in a moment of desirous rage, of murderous desirous rage from the flesh. Because you're jealous in a moment, you will be able to process that and live again without killing and devastating the beauty of life. And so that's what we see all around us: the devastation of paradise, the destruction of Abel. Right? And it drives us into death. It drives us into rage. It drives us into failure. It drives us into fragility and vulnerability. And so we need help from the higher realm, the spiritual realm, which is described as God, as we may know, mainly, but we know that there's other views out there. And I think that it's all kind of a way, completely right or somewhat right in some ways, trying to get it right. And maybe there's a more right way, which is evident in the Bible, a more right way to get there to God, who will then pull us from our desires so that we don't devastate our emotions, which will drive us crazy, drive us into becoming a monster like Cain, like Eve, and destroying paradise and killing our own brother, our beautiful family, our beautiful earth, destroying nature, right? We're destroying nature all across the planet. We're the entire planet is just devastated from us all rejecting God's intimacy in the Bible and acting on our fleshly desires and acting as if we have no spiritual power, in which we need help by becoming vulnerable to a higher spiritual connection, which doesn't make sense in the flesh because it has no direct fleshly connection. reach out and touch my spiritual faith with my hand, like I touch a couch, like I touch my phone. You don't hear my spiritual faith like you hear my voice. You don't see spiritual faith like you see an animal. You don't taste spiritual faith like you taste ice cream or fruit from the Garden of Eden, of the tree of knowledge of good and bad, like Eve. Right? And you don't smell it. You don't smell faith. So faith is unseen. And that's why it's unbelievable, because when we don't step out and reach out and grab God in faith, which is the unbelievable, right? I'm trying to grab God, but he's missing. I don't know where he's at. Where are you, God? I'm trying to grab him. He's not there, right? You can't grab God with your hands like you can grab the one you love and give them a hug. You can't give God a hug. And that makes it hard because we're too afraid. And it's just not as, it doesn't seem as powerfully stimulating as our immediate need to eat, our immediate need to have sex, our immediate need to do whatever else that we desire on this earth, in the flesh, in the corporal, material, fleshly, 5 sense world. So anyways, so to sum it up, we're conscious of our emotions, and that's the story of Garden of Eden. And because we're conscious of our emotions, we need help in processing those emotions, as God told us when he told Cain Cain needed to, when he communicated to Cain to help him process his emotions of anger and jealousy, so that he wouldn't act on that and devastate our environment, devastate the flesh, destroy reality. And that's what we're doing now. We're not reaching out and asking God for help in intimacy. And so therefore we're destroying ourselves. And that's why in the flesh, I'm scared. In the flesh, I'm traumatized. In the flesh, I need to be on guard and protect myself and fight for my life. But in the spirit, God can free me from that. And that's the beautiful feeling of God. He frees me from the traumas and the fear and the anxiety and any dangerous feelings or any unprocessed feelings or unmanageable feelings. And he helps us process and manage those. And so that's why I'm reading the Bible. So come with me, read the Bible, follow me. I'm going to help teach you. I'm going to help share with you. God told me to put in the work now. He told me to make a video every day, make 2 videos a day if I can, make 3 videos, as many as I can. And I'm going to share with you the knowledge and the power of God. And I'm going to help you build a bridge of intimacy, not only to God, but to me, and to connect to human nature, to connect to yourselves, to connect to other humans, to connect to nature, to connect to planet Earth, to connect to animals, and to connect to your purpose in God. And that's going to be all revealed through intimacy with God. And that's what the Bible taught me. And so that's why I believe in the Bible. And I want to share that with you. It's freedom. That's why it says the truth will set you free, because the truth of God's love will set you free. But how do you reach out and touch God's love? And that's what I believe is a supernatural ability, a telepathic connection that's out of this world. It doesn't make sense in the physical world, but there's a power within us that has the ability to connect to God. He's provided a way for us. Now, whether it's God, whether it's aliens, whether it's a different mechanism of technology, it's still the it's still a functional reality. We need God. We need that mechanism to help us process our emotions in order for us to be connected to each other in love and intimacy, to the environment, to nature, to animals, to each other, to people, to ourselves, and most importantly, to our great work of what we should do while we're alive on planet Earth. So we can take action to live in purpose, the purpose of intimacy, the purpose of why we exist on planet Earth, to give our life meaning. So walk with me, follow me, subscribe to me, like me, and let me share with you what I've learned by reading the Bible and confronting good versus evil or the flesh versus the spirit. And open your eyes and your heart to the truth that will set you free in God's love, God's intimacy. Okay, I'm going to close out for now. God bless. Have a great day. Love y'all.